Well, that was our colleague Sanjay Suri reporting there. We will get him back to join us to give us a sense of where this leaves the actual extradition. Remember, Vijay Mallya also lost all of his appeals in the UK courts, but has not been extradited. In fact, we don't know what is the status of the extradition proceedings. All we have been told as there is confidential conversation, confidential dialogue or proceedings that have been underway between the UK government and Vijay Mallya, and there is nothing more for us to be able to elaborate as far as those confidential proceedings are concerned. The question now is whether Nirav Modi has any appeals left, and at this point in time, yes, he can appeal to the Supreme Court, but as Sanjay Suri was pointing out, that seems like a difficult proposition for Nirav Modi, but whether his extradition is guaranteed and his extradition is likely to happen shortly, we don't know, and those are questions that remain unanswered at this point in time. But remember, this goes back several years now. Nirav Modi has, of course, been in London. He was absconding, eventually found there in London, and has been going through the extradition appeals process. Sanjay Suri back with us. Sanjay, many thanks for joining us again. I just want to understand from you where this actually leaves the physical extradition of Nirav Modi. As we've seen in the case of Vijay Mallya, he went through the appeals process. At every stage in every court, the appeal was dismissed. Yet he has not been physically extradited to India. There are confidential proceedings on. We don't know what those proceedings are about. But can we draw parallels between where Nirav Modi finds himself and what can happen next?
Well, you're quite right. Winning an extradition case is not the same thing as winning an extradition. So far as the extradition case goes, the appeals court here has dismissed Nirav Modi's appeal, and he had been allowed to appeal on the sole ground that his mental health would not permit physical extradition. That appeal has been dismissed. His next step would be to seek permission from this court to appeal to the Supreme Court. That kind of permission is usually denied because the Supreme Court only takes up issues of public policy. And if that appeal to the Supreme Court or leave to appeal is rejected, he would have the option of going to the European Court of Human Rights. And that can win him some time. Again, it is not likely that he will succeed. Were that process to fail, this then goes back to the Home Office for it to sign off the order for physical extradition. But the real danger is the parallel process. He has applied for political asylum, and if that has also been dismissed, and we don't know if it has been because that is a confidential and a quite opaque process. If that appeal has been dismissed, then only is the way cleared for him to be physically extradited.
Right. So again, we don't know or don't have answers to where things currently stand as far as his appeal seeking political asylum in the UK. But Sanjay, any timeline? As you said, typically the Supreme Court would not entertain an appeal like this. But can we draw out a rough timeline of what Nirav Modi may be able to bargain for if he were to, for instance, appeal to the Human Rights Court?
Well, bearing in mind constantly that if this whole process is not tripped up in the asylum case, then we could be talking of weeks only before he can actually be extradited to India, because we can take it for that the Supreme Court is not going to take up this case. Then if he goes to the European Court of Human Rights, that is a process again for that European Court to consider whether to admit or not. It is likely not to. And if it refuses, then it comes back to the Home Office, and then we could potentially have Nirav Modi back over in India over the next few weeks. Then we are not on a long way from physical extradition unless the asylum issue trips this up.
Sanjay, just hang in there. We've got other reactions as well. Karnal Singh, the former Enforcement Directorate Chief, joins us. Mr. Singh, appreciate you joining us here on the program. Our colleague there reporting from London, the court dismissing the appeal filed by Nirav Modi. But as Sanjay was pointing out, winning an extradition case is not the same necessarily as guaranteeing actual extradition. What is it that you would look out for from this point in time in this process, which has been on for a long time?
See, the extradition, we all know, is a difficult and long-drawn process. But with every step, the Indian investigating agencies, they are winning in UK, or Indian government is getting closer to him. Like he has lost this particular case. He may go in and appeal, that is the possibilities. But certainly we are getting closer to him and getting him back to India.
Yes, getting closer to him, and perhaps this will eventually lead to him being brought back to India. Also with Shantanu Sen, the former Joint Director of the CBI. Mr. Sen, appreciate you joining us. The court rejecting the appeal filed by Nirav Modi. How confident do you feel about his actual extradition?
I don't think Nirav Modi has any chance in the human rights area. There is no human rights involved in this. It's a pure and simple case of defalcation and crime. And as we have already had him extradited, his success has been limited, very, very limited. In fact, there has been no success. He has delayed the process, and extradition takes anything from 7 to 10 years to get through. And we are reaching the end of our legal process, and he is reaching the end of that. He will be back in India and face the trial.
You're saying he will be back in India and face the trial. The only concern that our colleague Sanjay Suri was raising there was the political asylum appeal that's also underway parallelly, except that they're confidential proceedings, so we don't know whether that stands dismissed or whether that is still open at this point in time as an option for Modi. Do you believe, given what we've seen happen with Malia, that that could still be the silver lining or the only hope left for Nirav Modi?
Well, human rights is out of the question. As far as political asylum is concerned, that's a purely political decision. And as an investigating officer, I really would have no opinion on that area. It's a question of his business interests overweighing our criminal interest. And as we know in UK, people can buy their way in, they invest heavily and get asylum, as Lalit Modi has got. And that is a possibility. I do not rule out. But then where is the question of any political reasons, valid reason? It can only be a commercial decision by the United Kingdom.
Yes, and that continues to be a question mark. As Sanjay was pointing out, these are confidential proceedings and we do not have any further information. I'm going to get Sanjay back in. Sanjay, you heard what Karnal Singh, the former head of the ED, and Shantanu Sen, the former joint director of the CBI, had to say. They believe that the legal proceedings and the process that Nirav Modi was banking on or hoping for to turn things in his favor, that time has now run out, and it's only a matter of time before he finds himself in India. Given the regime change that we've seen in the UK, given the sensitivity of this matter, given the fact that this was a man absconding on the run after having defrauded public sector banks in India, the case for political asylum tenuous, Sanjay?
Well, the regime change in Britain has no role in this one way or another. That is a process that would have been for the government to consider earlier, and the government certainly would have rejected his claim for political asylum. That is certain. So far as that decision with the Home Office is concerned, The process is that he would apply to the Home Office, they would consider the case, give a ruling. It's almost certain they would have rejected the claim. He then would have a recourse to an appeal again to the Home Office itself. It is almost certain again that they would have rejected that too. Following that, he can go to the court in further appeal, and then there are two stages in court where an appeal can be heard, the first stage and at the second stage. And that is where human rights do come in, because he would claim that he would face political persecution and a violation of his fundamental human rights, which include medical rights, if he were to be physically extradited. And so through the political asylum case, the human rights arguments he would make would be prime. That is where we are in unknown territory. We do not know where his argument rests in that appeals process. But it is possible, and sadly we can do very little more than speculate. It's possible that if that asylum claim of his has been dismissed even by the courts, it would have been done without coming into public knowledge, then extradition is the only course left. If that is it, then certainly there is good reason for optimism that Nirav Modi would be back in India within weeks.
Well, as Sanjay was pointing out, you know, it is speculative at this point in time, because we just don't know what has happened as far as the political asylum process is concerned. What we do have clarity on is the way that the court has ruled today, and it is a setback for Nirav Modi. Karnal Singh, Shantanu Sen and Sanjay Suri, thanks very much for joining us here on this breaking story to take us through the implications of the court's order and where this leaves Nirav Modi's extradition. That's it then on this edition of Business 360. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned. The news continues on CNBC-TV18.